art, artist, thoughts, philosophy. Tradition says that Giotto was born in a farmhouse, perhaps at Colle di Romanagano or Rominagano. Since 1850, a tower house in nearby Col Vesipigano has borne a plaque claiming the honor of his birthplace. An assertion that is commercially publicized. However, recent research has presented documentary evidence that he was born in Florence, the son of a blacksmith. His father's name was Bondone. Most authors accept that Giotto was his real name, but may have been an abbreviation of Ambrogio or Angelo. In his lives of the most excellent painters, sculptors, and architects, Vasari states that Giotto was a shepherd boy, a merry and intelligent child who was loved by all who knew him. The great fortunate painter Cimabue discovered Giotto painting pictures of his sheep on a rock. They were so lifelike that Cimabue approached Giotto and asked if he could take him on as an apprentice. Cimabue was one of the two most highly renowned painters of Tuscany, the other being Duccio, who worked mainly in Siena. Vasari recounts a number of such stories about Giotto's skill as a young artist. He tells of one occasion when Cimabue was absent from the workshop and Giotto painted a remarkably lifelike fly on a face in a painting of Cimabue. When Cimabue returned, he tried several times to brush the fly off. Many scholars today are uncertain about Giotto's training and consider Vasari's account that he was Cimabue's pupil a legend that cite earlier sources that suggest that Giotto was not Cimabue's pupil. The story about the fly is also suspect because it paralleled the Pliny the Elder's and Antisodes and the Zurich's paintings, a craft so lifelike the bird tried to pick up them. Vasari also relates that when Pope Benedict XI sent a message to Giotto, asking him to send a drawing to demonstrate his skill, Giotto drew a red circle so perfectly that it seemed as though it was done using a pair of compasses and instructed the messengers to send it to the Pope. The messenger departed ill-pleased, believing that he had been made a fool of. The messenger brought other artists' drawings back to the Pope in addition to Giotto. When the messenger related how he had made the circle without moving his arms and without the aid of compasses, the Pope and his courtiers were amazed at how Giotto's skill greatly surpassed of all his contemporaries. Around 2090, Giotto married Risibuttat Lapo del Pella, the daughter of Lapo del Pella of Florence. The marriage produced 4 daughters and 4 sons, one of whom, Francesco, became a painter. Giotto worked in Rome in 2097 and 30s, but few traces of these paintings there remain today. By 1301, Giotto owned a house in Florence, and when he was not traveling, he would return there and live in comfort with his family. By the early 30s, he had multiple painting commissions in Florence. The Archbasilica of St. John Lateran's houses small portions of a fresco cycle painted for the Jubilee of 30s called by Boniface VII. He also designed the Navicella, a mosaic that decorated the facade of Old Peter's Basilica. In this period, Giotto was also painted the Badia Polypate, now in the Uffizi, Florence. Cimabue went to Assisi to paint several large frescoes at the new Basilica St. Francis of Assisi, and it is possible but not certain that Giotto went with him. The attribution of the fresco cycle of the life of St. Francis in the upper church has been one of the most disputed in art history. The document of Franciscan friars that relate to artistic commissions during this period was destroyed by Napoleon's troops, who stabled horses in the upper church of the basilica. So scholars have debated with the attribution in Giotto. In the absence of evidence to the contrary, it was convenient to attribute every fresco in the upper church, not obviously by Cimabue, to the better known Giotto, including those frescoes now attributed to the masters of Isaac. In the 1960s, art experts Millard Massis and the Leonardo Triettori examined all of the Assisi frescoes and found some of the painting contained white lead, also used in Cimabue's badly deteriorated crucifixion. No known works by Giotto contain the medium. However, Giotto's panel painting of the stigmatizations of Saint Francis includes a motif of the saint holding up the collapsing church, previously including the Assisi frescoes. The authorship of a large number of panel painting ascribed to Giotto by Vasari, among others, is as boldly disputed as the Assisi frescoes. According to Vasari, Giotto's earlier works were for the Dominicans at the Santa Maria Novella. They include a fresco of the Annunciation and the enormous suspended crucifix, which is about 5 meters high. It has been dated to about 1290 and is thought to be contemporary with the Assisi frescoes. Earlier attributed works are the San Giorgio alla Costa, Madonna and the Child, now in the Diocesan Museum of Santo Stephanos on the Pontiff, Florence, and the Saint Panel of the Stigmatizations of Saint Francis House in the Louvre. An earlier biographical sources, Ricobaldo of Fiorella, mentioned that Giotto painted at Assisi but does not specify the Saint Francis cycle. What kind of art may this testify to by work done by him in the Franciscan churches at Assisi, Rimini, Padua, since the idea was put forward of the German art historian Friedrich Rinten? Many scholars have expressed doubt that Giotto was the author of the upper church frescoes. Without documentation, arguments and the attributions have railed upon the connoisseurships and the notoriously unreadable science, but technical examinations and comparisonships of the workshop paintings Padua in 2002 have provided strong evidence that Giotto did not paint the Saint Francis cycle. There are many differences between it and the Arena Chapel frescoes that are difficult to account for within the stylistic development of an individual artist. It is now generally accepted the 4 different hands are identified in the Assisi St. Francis frescoes and that they come from Rome. If this is the case, Giotto's fresco at Padua owe much to the naturalism of the painter. Giotto's frame as a painter spread, he was called to work in Padua and also in Rimini, where there remains only a crucifixion painted before 1309 and conserved in the church of St. Francis. It influenced the Rimini school of Giovanni and the Pietro da Rimini. According to documents of 1301 and 1304, Giotto by this time possessed large estates in Florence, and it is probable that he was already leading a large workshops and receiving commissions from throughout Italy. Around 1305, Giotto executed his most influential work, the interior frescoes of Scorvigny Chapel in Padua. that in 2021 were declared UNESCO World Heritage together with other 14th century fresco cycles in different buildings around the center. Enrico degli Scorvagni commissioned the chapel to serve as family worship burial space and the backdrop for an annually performed mystery play. The theme of the decoration is salvation, and there is an emphasis on the Virgin Mary, as the chapel is dedicated to the Annunciation and the Virgin of Charity. As was common in the church decoration of medieval Italy, the west wall is dominated by the Last Judgment. On either side of the channel are complementary paintings of the angel Gabriel and the Virgin Mary, depicting the Annunciation. The scene is incorruptible in the cycle of the life of the Blessed Virgin Mary and the life of Christ. Giotto's inspiration for the life of the Virgin Circle was probably taken from the Golden Legend by Jacobus de Vogarin, and the life of Christ draws upon the meditation on the life of Christ as well as the Bible. The frescoes are more than mere illustrations of the familiar text, however, and scholars have found numerous sources for Giotto's interpretations of sacred stories. Vasari, drawing on depictions by Giovanni Boccaccio, a friend of Giotto's, says of him that there was no uglier man in the city of Florence, and indicates that his children were also plain in appearance. There is a story of Dante visited Giotto while he was painting the Scorvagni chapel, and seeing the artist's children underfoot asked how a man who painted such beautiful pictures could have such plain children. Giotto, who according to Vasari was always a wit, replied, "I make my pictures by day Giotto worked on other frescoes in Padua, some now lost, such as those that were in Basilica St. Antony and the Palazzo della Regina. Numerous painters from northern Italy were influenced by Giotto's work in Padua, including Granitio di Studio de Menubels, Jacopo Avenzi, and Ateleciro. Altriciro. From 1311, Giotto was in Assisi, where he painted the frescoes in the transepts area of the lower church of the Basilica of St. Francis, including the Life of Christ, Franciscan's allegories, and the Magdalene Chapel, drawing on stories of the Golden Legend and including the portraits of Bishop Tebaldo Pontano, who commissioned the work. Several assistants are mentioned, including Pallarno di Guido. The style demonstrates development from Giotto's work in Padua. In 1301, Giotto returned to Florence. A document from 1330 about his furniture there shows that he had spent a period in Rome sometime beforehand. It is now thought that he produced the design of the famous Navicella mosaic for the courtyard of the old St. Peter's Basilica in 1310, commissioned by Cardinal Jacopo Stefanci, and now lost to the Renaissance church except for some fragments and Baroque reconstructions, according to the Cardinal's necrology. He also at least designed the Stefanci Trifid, a double-sided altarpiece of Sir St. Peter's, now in the Vatican Pinacoteca. It shows St. Peter's enthroned with saint on the front. On the reverse, Christ is enthroned frame with the scenes of the martyrdom of St. Peter and St. Paul. It is one of the few works by Giotto for which firm evidence of a commission exists. However, the style seems unlikely for either Giotto or his formal Florentine assistant, so he may have had his design executed by an ad hoc workshop of romance. The Cardinal also commissioned Giotto to decorate the apse of St. Peter's Basilica, with a cycle of frescoes that were destroyed during the 16th century renovations. According to Vasari, Giotto remained in Rome for 6 years, subsequently receiving numerous commissions in Italy and in the papal state of the Avions, but some of these work are now recognized to be by other artists. In Florence, where documents from 1314-1327 attest his financial activities, Giotto painted on altar place known as the Ognissanti Madonna, which is now on display in the Uffizi, where it is exhibited beside Cimabue Santa Trinita Madonna and Ducio's Lucia Madonna. The Ognissanti altar place is the only panel painting by Giotto that has been universally accepted by scholars, despite in this fact it is undocumented. It was painted for the church of Ognissanti in Florence, which has built by an obscure religious order known as the Humility. It is a large painting, and scholars are divided on whether it was made for the main altar of the church, where it would have been viewed primarily by the brothers and the other, or for the choir scenes, where it would have been more easier seen by a lay audience. He also painted around the time of the Dorminations of the Virgin, now in the Berlin's Gardens, and the crucifix of the Church of Ognissanti. Giotto, one of the first great painters of the Renaissance, worked in Florence and painted important chapels in Santa Croce. His frescoes brought human emotions and realistic space to church art, inspiring generations of artists from Masaccio to Michelangelo. In the later part of his life, Giotto worked in Naples, Bologna, and Florence, often with his pupil. He became chief architect of Florence Cathedral and designed its iconic bell tower. Known as Giotto's Chapeniles, his talent was celebrated by contemporaries like Dante and Boccaccio. Giotto passed away in 1337, leaving a legacy that shaped Renaissance art.